Railroad Preserver 2000 here, back again doing another video here in North Platte, Nebraska. This time at Cody Park at the back of the property. And guys, I'm pretty sure you rail fans who've been out here know it's here, but for those who don't, this is the home of Union Pacific Challenger 3977. And I have seen a few articulated steam locomotives. And again, like I said with engine number 480, I've seen plenty of steam locomotives on display, but the ones here in North Platte are some of the most beautiful steam locomotives I have ever seen. And that's concerning both how they look in regards to their displayed condition. And I tell you, the people here in North Platte do a great job with keeping these engines up. You'd think this thing was probably in operation only recently, like in an excursion or something, but no, it's been retired for over 50 years, and yet here it is, looking gorgeous, and in a Greyhound paint scheme. So this is a nice contrast to 3985. 3985 is in the black freight livery. This is in the Greyhound passenger scheme, if I'm not mistaken. And I know 844 wore this livery for a while before being painted back to black. So yeah, I'm going to start with a walk around of the engine, and you can get into the cab of both 3977 and 6922. But I want to cover some of the artifacts here because they're a rarity now. So here we've got an old switch stand that still has both the marker flag and the marker lights at the top. Of course, they have it locked for obvious reasons, which is good. And up here we have a semaphore signal. There's another one by the depot. And again, beautifully restored. Beautiful, beautiful steam locomotive. Truly. I mean, North Platte, Railfan Paradise. This gives every location I've been to before an extreme run for their money. So you've got the running gear here, and what I like about 3977's display position is it's on a slight curve, so you can see a bit of how it would have articulated. Because I'll back up here and stand face forward with the locomotive, and you can see that it's still partially turning, so that gives you an idea of how it would have articulated in the middle, because the boiler is a continuous piece, but the running gear here, those are separate pieces. And look at this. Well, there's a bit of rust, but not as bad. They even make they make sure to keep this thing up. I mean, look at that, spotless. You know your steam locomotive's looking good when you can see your own reflection in the cylinder caps. That tells you something, really does. Here's that signal again, looking up. And you can go into the cabin, the short passenger cars they have behind this thing here. But I want to do a walk around of the equipment and the engine first, and I'll do the same thing with the Centennial. And they're all numbered 6900 because, well, 1869 is when the Transcontinental Railroad was completed, and 1969 was the 100th anniversary of that. And take note here, there's no water tower. They have a water pipe here, a water spout. So what the engineer would do here is the engineer would be on the back of the tender with a long pole or a rod, and they'd grab a hold of that little bar there on top of the spout there, and they'd turn the water spout over to where the water would be fed into the tender. Then they'd pull that lever up there, and that would let the water in and out. And that was a bug that flew into my face. Wonderful. So here's some stairs. Now I'm going to go over the museum and all that's inside the train after this, because I want to make this be separate videos devoted to each piece of equipment, including the depot. Depot is very beautiful. Just a sneak peek inside the museum. There's 6922 with its headlight on, I should mention. Here's the depot with another set of semaphore signals. It's a double set. Here's the engine. So now, this will be the first time I've ever been inside the cab of a Challenger. My first time inside the cab of a big boy was in St. Louis, but considering I didn't have a tripod, the video was terrible. So I'm remedying that with this. Let's head in, shall we? Also, there's a lot of birds here in this park. Facts and figures? I believe so. Now this would have also been, I think, either coal or oil. So here's the inside of the cab. Oh wow, this is also the first one that it still has the stuff in the its respective shelf. That's right. Oh, and they have the firebox lit. Okay, so this will be where I take the camera off. Look at the size of that firebox. So here's the fireman's side and all his related controls. And keep in mind, they're all labeled, most of them. Panning around and up, you've got the engineer's side. Complete with whistle cord, which is silent. That's a shame, though. They really should hook a compressed air system up to that thing. That would be so great. I mean, it's just an idea, though, because in California, where 4014 was displayed, they did that. They hooked compressed air up to his whistle so you could blow it. Now, I think this was a mechanical stoker. Yep, mechanical stoker. The Archimedes screw would be in there and feed coal into the firebox. But I'm tickled that they have that thing lit. I need to let them know that there's water in here, so there must be a few leaks, but not too bad. They just need to make sure that those are taken care of. And this is old grating here. You can see where they put new grating in, but this is what would have been on the engine in the 50s when it was running. Here's a close-up of some of the gauges. Let me focus in. This is manual focus. Ha! That's funny. The boiler pressure never got to 0. It's at 50. So that's nice. So I think this is your speedometer here. Doesn't say, but it's at 0, which is sad. And that is some really old oil. Is that oil or is that tar? I don't know which. I don't know what that is. I'm not even going to ask. But then you've got your drive wheel lubrication can there. You can see it has that long nozzle for tight, hard to reach spots. Then you've got the ventilator, the ventilation in the roof. You've got that again on either side of the engine there. Now this is the fun part. I'm going to take the camera off the tripod so we can so you guys can see into the firebox. This is what I wish they did with the 4006's firebox in St. Louis. So here you get an idea of the inside of this firebox and just how big it is. That is a massive, great area. Now, of course, if this thing were running, you couldn't put this in here because you'd be burned alive. So, yeah. That is nice, though, that they did that. So, let's walk through the museum. I'm going to do the depot last, so... Yeah, you can see that's the door there. Off to this side, that's the door. I don't know if this thing would have had a butterfly valve, so this might have... But if that's not the case, then that would mean this was one that was converted to, I guess, but I don't know if this was converted to burn oil. I don't know if that ever happened. I guess it would have been. I don't know. But, yeah. So, 6922 2 will be the first Centennial diesel that I will have ever been in the cab of. I've been in the cab of another diesel locomotive before, and that was in Spencer, and that diesel was operational, but it wasn't as big as that. That sucker's essentially, again, as I mentioned with the other Centennial in St. Louis, the diesel version of the Union Pacific Big Boy. So let's go through the museum, shall we? Okay, yes. A lot of memorabilia in here. You've got the train bulletins. Now this would have been a baggage car, I should mention. In fact, there's one of the 4000s. Right there. Number 4019 never made it to preservation. 4018 still exists. And here in the display case you've got memorabilia from Union Pacific and the other railroads. Then you've got a bison, probably referencing a Buffalo Bill. Insulators. Hard hat. And then you've got the timetable in it, and books, the timetable book, log books. I have one of those. It's an Erie Railroad one that a friend gave me. That's and that is a 484 model. That thing is huge, actually. And here's, I guess, the facilities in either yard in here. I don't know if this was the facility. No, yeah, this is here. This is in North Platte, right here, because that's the diesel shop. There's the fueling facility. The tower is right in this corner of land here. And there's downtown North Platte. Yes, sir. So yeah, this would have been your baggage compartment here. Slash mail, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what that is. Oh, hand-operated rail drill. That's old school. Try using that today on modern railroads. You can't. There's more equipment that they have displayed. Then you've got boiler pressure gauges. I think those are pressure gauges for boilers. Got a fireman's shovel. That's an axle or a bearing off a wheel. More memorabilia, a lot of memorabilia actually. Okay, so this is a baggage car and a mail car is ahead of us. Okay. It's very rare for me to go inside railroad mail cars. I've been in I think maybe one or two in Steamtown, and that was years ago. You got yourself a rail bike, essentially a 040 that you would power by yourself. Safety first is apparently would not have been included with this thing back when it was made. And here is an old telegraph pole top with insulators still intact. And I have those wood, essentially those wood screws that would have screwed into the insulators and held them down. I have one of those. And you've got another arrival and departure board, and you've got more paintings. There's 3985, sister to the Challenger that's there, and that's the only other one aside from the one I toured that still exists. 3985 and 3977 are the only two Challengers left. It's a nice looking sucker. There's 844 or 8444 as it was called back then. You can see some of the uniforms there, and when women worked on the Union Pacific. Here you've got the presidents from, I think, the first to the current, if I'm not mistaken. And more paintings. And I love this. I love this so much. Is that a whistle? Oh yeah, that's the whistle. Imagine sounding that out during the day. Oh, so Jim Young, 2004 to now, apparently. I think, I could be wrong. Watch your step. Walsh Forsyth buffering device, patent D6-24-13, Walth Draft Gear Company, Chicago, Illinois. And we are now in the mail car. This would have been where your mail would have been taken if you were still shipping by train. That's your old heater there. These are old heaters here. These are coils. There's your brake in case something happened, God forbid. You've got your parcel racks. You've got your mailbag sorting. You would have picked your mailbags up here, and there would have been like a pole to grab the mailbags and bring them on the train. Would have been that way for both sides and on both ends of the car. So you've got letters and whatnot, bags of mail. Probably would have been packages, I think, stored up here. The letters would have been stored in these slots here, these shelves. I think packages of varying sizes and styles would have been stored up here, I think. Yeah, held packages. I'm glad they labeled these. And these would have been sorted. This would have been for sorting mail by town, state. And I love how they have mail still in here. That's nice. It'd be nice if they let visitors write sort of fictional letters in here and put them in there. That'd be nice, but I know they probably wouldn't do that. More mailbag racks and package storage. Yeah, and that would have been what the mailbag stayed on right there. So that was just, so the mailbags operated like how. So the mailbags were mounted on a pole like the train orders were. They would snatch them up as the train went by. And the train order was the same thing. And I hope whoever idiot did that to the window, I hope they're punished very good for that. There's not many of these pieces of equipment left. And here is the what they'd use to get the mail bags. It would be this long pole here. And they would have probably been picked up, I guess, on the end of that pole there. Or, I don't know. Probably one of the two. And here's your little water cooler. Probably would have been cooled by ice, if I had to guess. And here's your little wash basin. Slash toiletry. There would have been a light there above. And now here is the last car on the train, which is affectionately the caboose. And there's a mechanical refrigeration car, an old reefer. Now I don't know when this caboose was retired. Probably recently. Well, not recently. First aid. OSHA would probably have a fit if they saw that. 1971. So this might have been. So that may have been when this thing was retired. That's amazing that they that is amazing that they kept using this sucker up until that point. So this is one of the cupola cabooses. In fact, there's your brake systems up there. In fact, the gauge actually still has, I think, a fairly decent amount of air pressure in it. I'm pretty sure there probably would have been a phone later on. I don't know if that's still mounted somewhere. I doubt it. I love how they have that regarded as a question. I don't know. Would it count as a question if it's inside? No one knows. I don't know what that is. Can y'all let me know? Any former railroad employees, can y'all let me know? Here's your wood stove or coal stove, probably one of the two. Yeah, I think it's coal. Have no coal above fire pot, so it's a coal stove. Okay. Hot box is referring to the old bearings that were in use. In fact, I'll show you. I think this is one of those cabooses that would have had a Mars light on the back. Let me look. Yeah, right there where that steel cover is, that would have been a blinking red light there underneath the catwalk. And they still have the old marker lights there, so that's nice. Now the hot box is what they were referring to concerning these bearings. Of course, this was probably rebuilt later on, but it was referring to older bearings that would have been kept lubricated by either oil rags or something else. So now let's go aboard the Centennial and see what we have to see there. Number 6922. So this will be the first Centennial I'm able to look into, because they didn't let you in the cab of the one in St. Louis. I love it though. This thing needs as much. Come on, y'all. The Centennial needs as much love as the steam engine. Okay, I'm going to be blunt here. It's still photograph worthy. That is very thin stair metal, just saying. Make sure those welds are kept up. As you can see, here, let me set the camera down to give you a representation of just how much clearance you've got here. Alright. This is how much clearance you've got on this thing's catwalk here. Or running board, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if that came up on camera very well or not, so my apologies if it didn't. So yeah, this is what I mean by the thing being the big boy equivalent of the diesel version of the Union Pacific Big Boy, because right here is the engine compartment of the #1 engine, which would have powered this first set of 4 wheels, 4 traction motors underneath the cab. And if we walk through here, we have a little walk-through area. Now this separates engine 1 and engine 2. Engine 2 is here in the back. That would power the other set of 4 drive motors on the back end of the engine. There's a better view of the device used to get the mail bags as the train passed through the cities. So now let's go inside the cab, shall we? So we're inside the cab of the 6922, and as you can see, it's built kind of like an F40PH in terms of its cab design, but at least I think it is. I could be wrong. And you've got your CB radio here. They would have probably called dispatch, like dispatch, this is 6922 with train so-and-so, remission to depart or enter the yard at North Platte. You got your windshield wipers, of course. They don't exactly work, and I think you can see they had it both manual and air. So as you can see, these are powered by air and by hand, I think. And you've got auxiliary sidewall heater, and then blower. That's probably what that is. Got your brakes, got your fire extinguisher, which is a very old one. That down there would have probably been for electrical, sand, and toiletries. You've got, I think, something which would have been used for signals, I think signal lights. You've got your electrical panels and whatnot. Buddy, that needle is near the red zone. I'd be rather concerned. Just saying. So you can see what all those lights meant. Imagine if you just turned a button and the engine just started up. That'd be awesome. That'd be so awesome. It's like, get the frig out of here. First aid, break glass. There is no first aid, I'm afraid. Sorry. That was neat, though, that the first aid thing in the caboose was still there. So here's your... I guess this is like a major dead man brake, I think. I don't know. I had to guess probably the case. So here's the engineer's side. That's the conductor's side. This is the engineer's side. He has all the good stuff to deal with. I think that's the dead man's pedal, where if you didn't step on that a certain amount of times, the engine would stop. I could be wrong on that. I could be wrong entirely on that. There's the horn. Oh, it doesn't work. Dang it! That would have been nice. I've always wondered what the horn sounded like on these things. And I know Union Pacific did try engines of multiple designs of this type concerning a 2-engine diesel. And all the other ones didn't exactly fare too well. I think this was the only type and model that actually worked for quite a few years in revenue service without a problem. You can see, here's a better close-up view of the gauges. Let me focus that in a bit better. You can see the gauges there. Danger 600 volts. I don't think I have to worry about those 600 volts anymore. Red brake cylinder. They still got brake air in them. That's amazing. So the brakes are still on. Of course, I can understand why. We ain't going anywhere. So, yeah. All that's left now is the depot there. So let's head down to there, shall we? Oh, and they have instructions here. Ooh. Ooh, 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 yes. In case you wanted to know how to run one of these things, there you go. So yeah. Yeah, you can see all the gauges in there. So this sucker might have been used for quite a while before being retired. And in fact, I think Union Pacific still has at least one Centennial that's kept operational for special events. So that's nice. It's something, isn't it?
Amazing.
Yeah. You know, I love that this type of locomotive is essentially the diesel equivalent to a Union Pacific's big boy. I mean, 2 engines, 2 sets of wheels. Well, 2 sets of 4 actually. There's the depot, and here's panning back to the reefer. So yeah, that'd be a neat view. Alright. So now I'm going to ask if I can film inside the depot. If not, then that's alright. So yeah, that's the end of this video, and I will see y'all later.
Get up there. Come down.
Alright, so I got permission to film inside the depot. So here's the exterior, and I love the color scheme of it. That's really nice. There's the stovepipe, and again, those signals. In fact, I'll zoom in on them. Very nice. And again, there's 3977. And it was painted black and gray like 3985, so that's nice. So entering in now. That needs a bit of work. There's the other side of a 6922. Union Pacific flag there. And there's a reefer. Alright, so here's the inside of the depot. with the lovely dark green and light green paint scheme. And again, there's an example of another 2-engine diesel design that Union Pacific tried. I forget the model type, but I think it was built by GE if I remember correctly. And you got your restrooms there. So would this depot have been used for passenger / freight, or was it solely for passenger use?
I'm sorry, what?
The depot here, was it used for passenger use or freight?
Passenger and freight. The back door was freight.
So beyond the door there, right here. So beyond that door there was the area where they held freight. So this would have been the passenger area. There's some more memorabilia there. I'm guessing the fan is period. I bet it might work, still work, who knows.
Yeah.
Knowing how most electronics from that era were, they probably would work just fine. Here you've got your train bulletin, so that would be arrival and departure. And I love that it said trains are still chalked up, that's nice. Oh look, more insulators, I have a few at home. It's like the most common railroad artifact you find is insulators. You know it? So there's 3977's move to Cody Park. And here's the old, I'm guessing either wood stove or coal stove. Probably one of the two, wood stove or coal stove. And you've got your telephone here, which I'm guessing would have been in the stations for you to call people. And you've got your mailbox here, so I'm guessing this would have served as a post office too at one point, I think. There's the Centennials in operation. Nice if this thing had an autofocus when filming. Oh well. There's a picture of 844. Then operating when they took it as 8444 due to a diesel having its original number on the roster. There's what 3977's paint scheme originally was. There's 480, which I photographed and filmed earlier. And there's 3985. So you can see here in the telegraph office, let me zoom in, you've got all the equipment that the operator would have needed. You've got your phone, your typewriter. I'm guessing the telegraph was swapped out later.
They have the telegraph was over here, the teletype was over there.
And I can see an old rotary phone there. I'm guessing that was a track foreman's phone, judging by it being in the box there.
Yeah.
And you've got, I guess, I'm guessing those are signal bells up there. Above your head there towards the back wall.
This right here, this was part of the switchboard.
And then of course they've got the train order pole, which I've talked about numerous times. They would tie the train orders and on that string there, when the train went by, engineer would pick it up and they'd tie another one on for the crew in the caboose to pick up. If I'm not mistaken, right? So, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, you didn't have to open it, but...
Oh, no, it's fine.
Oh, and they still have apparently... I guess these people forgot to get their mail. What do you think? And then they have a scale here to weigh the cargo here. 3977 in its Greyhound paint. They've got the safe here, guess for storing valuables. An old telephone that's probably been there from like the 70s. Westinghouse fluorescent lamps. No telling if those still work. Yeah, here's a better view of the equipment. Teletypes. And then you've got the electrical equipment in the back there. I'm guessing that's Morse code there with the dots.
Morse code is over here, the telegraph. And that's a teletype we started inside.
So here's the ticket window. And then there's your old light switches, which they probably don't make anymore. Well, not probably, they do not make them anymore, actually. So I'm guessing that's another, I guess the station operator must have fashioned that one. What do you think? You can never have enough stamps, apparently. Let's be honest. So there's a better view of the equipment there. So that would have been for the semaphore signals, right? And then you've got your station master's lamp there. And there's the telegraphs. You'd tap there and relay the rest. Let's see, what's the typewriter operator? Oh, not operator. I like to look at the name of the company that made the typewriters. So I don't know if you see them. L.C. Smith & Brothers Typewriter Company. Here's a better view of that box there. And all the other equipment. And then there's another phone. And then there's the switchboard for it. So what you do is you'd pull one wire out and then of one area on the switchboard and plug it in to, I guess, get the other operator, if I'm right. All right. And I think that, yeah, operating a pin jack switchboard. And I'm guessing the instruction sheet is has gotten a lot of pins in it as well.
You can't read the instructions very good at all.
Well, that's never good. If you can't read the instructions, then you're not going to do it right. You know what I mean?
That's what we tried to find some more instructions so we could put some, but we can't find them. So.
Oh. So 1985, I guess, was when they retired that sucker.
Yeah.
If only it was 1989, then we would have gotten 30 years out of it straight. And there's some old magazines there. Well, not old. I'd say probably about over 10 years old.
Yeah, probably a little older than that maybe.
Well, I guess on this gauge reading is accurate. 10 is better than none. So I'm guessing you're still using that for storage, right?
Yeah, I can go up for you so you can kind of see what it did look like. But we've just got storage in it right now.
Yeah, and there's a dual engine gas turbine up there on the picture. Alright, so this is used for storage here, but this would have been the freight section of the depot. Of course, again, they're using it for storage. So I guess you could say they still use it for some sort of freight. Oh, wow. And this was a completely different contrast. In fact, there's an old, I'm guessing that was an old employee locker there. So then you've got the gray and white here, so you could have gray, dark and light green for passenger areas, and then white and gray for freight. Then you would have the door here. This is where it would have been brought in or out, or vice versa. And you can see how the roof was constructed. It have like horizontal beams going along this bottom area, and then they'd have other beams connecting on either end and then up to the middle to hold the entire roof system up. So that's nice. I like that. So yeah, that's the end of this video, and I will see y'all later.